Have you ever been to feel a shiver from nothing, remembering someone unexpectedly, or realizing small coincidences that seem to point to a single person? Yeah, not everything needs to be said to be perceived. There are subtle signs that may indicate that someone is thinking of you, even without any word being changed. The language of silence can be as powerful as an entire conversation. Small gestures, a change in the energy around you, even dreams and interactions on social networks can carry invisible but extremely significant messages. Some people call it coincidence. Others believe fate is trying to talk to them. The fact is that our intuition and perception often capture what the eyes do not see. What if I told you that there are ways to identify these signs? That the look, silence, and even someone's attention lapses say more than words? In this article, we will explore the most common evidence that someone may be with you in thoughts, even without saying anything directly. Get ready to decipher the codes of the universe and find that you may be more connected to that person than you think. And in the end, you may realize that certain meetings, even subtle, have never been just the work of chance. Silence can be deafening when it carries undistant feelings. Have you noticed how someone's presence can be felt even without a single word? Small gestures, like a look that extends a little more or a contained smile, can convey much more than whole phrases. When someone thinks of you, it is possible for this person's energy to reach you, subtly but undeniable. Sometimes silence is not absence, but intense presence. The way someone behaves around you can reveal thoughts that have not been verbalized. Deviated looks, deep sighs, and even that hesitation before saying something may indicate that this person is processing something about you. The body speaks, even when the mouth is silent. Unvised messages, interrupted conversations, and even the delay in responding can be clear signals that someone is reflecting on you. Have you noticed when someone starts entering a message and then erases? This small gesture may be proof of a whirlwind of thoughts, perhaps a fear of exposing what you feel. Silence also manifests itself in subtle changes in behavior. If someone who was previously communicative begins to become more reserved in his presence, he may be fighting what he feels. Similarly, a person who has never shown interest can start to be more present in a discreet way, just to feel close. Listening to silence is an art. Many times he says more than words they would never get. The secret lies in perception, observing expressions, body language, and even small hesitation can reveal a lot about one's thoughts. After all, the strongest connections do not always need words to exist. Have you ever felt that inexplicable feeling that someone is thinking about you? As if, suddenly, a name arose in your mind for no apparent reason, or a shiver traveled your body from nowhere. This is no coincidence. Sixth sense and intuition are powerful tools that capture signs that logic often ignores. When there is a strong connection between two people, their energy can cross distances and manifest in unexpected ways. Science may not completely explain, but human experience is full of reports about this invisible connection. Who never felt a sudden restlessness, then find out that someone was talking about you at that moment? Or receive a message right after thinking intensely in a person? It sounds magical, but perhaps it is just the way our thoughts and emotions interact at a more subtle level. Intuition often warns us even before we realize consciously. Have you ever entered an environment and felt that someone had just mentioned your name? Or did you have such a strong feeling about someone that it was impossible to ignore? These signs can be minor manifestations that someone else's mind is in tune at its frequency. even if unconsciously. To strengthen this perception, start paying attention to times when your intuition speaks louder. If you feel a strong presence in your mind, see if there are other signs around you confirming it: a song playing on the radio, an unexpected reference in a conversation, a recurring dream. These clues can be forms of the universe reinforce what their sixth sense has already realized. In the end, intuition never fails. We just need to learn to hear it. When something or someone occupies our thoughts insistently, it may be that the answer is already within us. The question is, are you ready to trust what you feel? How many times have you thought of someone and, minutes later, did that person appear in any way? Whether through an unexpected message, an unlikely meeting, or even her name coming up in a random conversation. These situations may seem simple coincidences, but are they just that? Some connections are so intense that they seem to challenge any logical explanation, as if the universe were giving a little push to bring certain people closer. Destiny, for some, is nothing more than the sum of interconnected choices and events. But there are times when things seem too aligned to be mere chance. Think at that moment when you were about to forget someone, but something happens and that person reappears, whether physically or through unexpected memories. It sounds like a cosmic irony, but it may be a sign that this connection has not yet come to an end. Some coincidences are so accurate that they make us wonder if we are really in control of everything. Have you had the experience of listening to a song that resembles someone and, soon after, getting a message from this person? Or realize that certain meetings happen in the most symbolic moments? Perhaps these synchronicities are only reflections of what we feel and think, manifesting themselves in the world around us. Whether it's coincidence or destination, what matters is the way these signs resonate within you. Some connections seem to have their own strength, as if they insist on staying alive, regardless of time or distance. Perhaps the universe acts as a large chessboard, moving invisible pieces to remind us that certain stories have not yet ended. In the end, the question that remains is, do you believe in chance, or do you think some things were really intended to happen? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain: some people come into our lives in such a synchronized way that they make us doubt that everything is just a matter of luck. Have you noticed that sometimes you feel a strong emotion for no apparent reason? As if, out of nowhere, a longing, a restlessness, or even a joy took over you. It may be that these sensations are not just yours, but reflexes of what someone else feels. The concept of emotional mirror suggests that when we have a deep connection with someone, our emotions can intertwine, even without direct contact. This phenomenon often occurs among close friends, family, and, of course, between people who share a special relationship. Have you ever felt an inexplicable anguish and then found that someone important to you was going through a difficult time? Or, on the contrary, did you feel a warmth in your chest and, shortly thereafter, did you get an unexpected message from someone who brings you good memories? These signs may indicate that this person is also feeling his presence in thought. The emotional connection goes beyond words and gestures. Studies on empathy suggest that emotions are transmitted, which means that what we feel can actually be a reflection of someone else's emotional state. The stronger the bond, the more intense this silent exchange of sensations will be. This would explain why some people can feel when someone dear is not well, even without any apparent track. Paying attention to these emotions can be a powerful tool to understand the strength of a connection. If you constantly realize mood swings linked to specific thoughts about someone, maybe that person is indeed thinking of you. The secret is to observe standards and realize how these emotions arise and manifest themselves. In the end, human relations are a game of energies that go far beyond what the eyes see. If you feel someone for no apparent reason, it may be because that person feels you too. Are we more connected than we imagine? How many times have you started writing a message for someone and, in the last second, decided to erase? This apparently insignificant small gesture can say a lot about the feelings and thoughts involved. When someone thinks of you intensely, there is a chance that this person has considered contacting, but hesitated for insecurity, pride, or simply not knowing how to express what he feels. Technology has made communication easier, but it also expanded the space for digital silence. Those messages entered and deleted, the indirect status, and even unanswered view can be signs of an internal whirlwind. Many times, when someone avoids sending a message, it does not mean lack of interest, but excessive feeling. After all, who has never been looking at the phone screen, wondering whether or not to send a hi? The fear of appearing vulnerable is one of the main reasons why messages are not sent. Sometimes the person means something, but is afraid of response or their absence. Silence in this case does not mean disinterest, but an inner battle between the desire to connect and the fear of consequences. If you feel that someone is thinking of you, this person may have already written your name on the screen more often than you think. You have noticed how some people start interacting indirectly when you want to say something, but don't you know how? Unexpected likes, posts with enigmatic messages, or even a sudden disappearance can be ways to express what they cannot say directly. Often the most obvious signs are not in what is said, but in what is avoided. If you feel that there is something not resolved with someone, pay attention to these small details. Sometimes the message that never arrived can be proof that the connection still exists. And who knows, perhaps silence is not the end of the conversation, but only a break before what really needs to be said. Have you ever dreamed of someone and, upon waking, felt that it seemed more than a simple daydream? Dreams may be reflections of our subconscious, but they may also indicate deep connections that surpass the physical world. When two people are emotionally linked, it is common for them to appear in each other's dreams, as if their minds continue to meet even when their bodies are distant. It is not uncommon to hear stories from people who dreamed of someone and the next day they received a message from that same person. This is because the brain processes emotions and thoughts in a symbolic way during sleep. If someone is constantly in their dreams, it may be a sign that this person occupies a significant space in his unconscious and perhaps in hers as well. Some cultures believe that dreams are forms of communication between souls. Have you ever imagined that while you sleep, you may be participating in meetings that your conscious mind doesn't remember when you wake up? This would explain why some people report feeling an intense connection with someone after a striking dream. Science may call this remnants of memory, but those who have experienced know that sometimes dreams seem too real to be ignored. Paying attention to dream details can help interpret what they are trying to reveal. How do you feel when you see this person in the dream? Is the context pleasant or strange? Your subconscious may be bringing out emotions you don't realize in everyday life. Sometimes a repetitive dream can be a reminder that there is something to be resolved between you and that person. Be coincidental, be an emotional connection. The fact is that dreaming often with someone can be a strong indication that this person is also connected to you, somehow. After all, are dreams just random creations of the mind, or would it be messages from the universe about who still inhabits our thoughts? Have you noticed how, in digital times, Even the absence of interaction can be a signal. Social networks have become a true silent field of communication, where a simple like can carry more meaning than an entire sentence. When someone thinks of you, it is natural that, consciously or unconsciously, that person seeks some way to connect, and networks are the perfect way to it. Like in an old photo, a rapidly viewed story, or even a subtle comment may indicate that someone is accompanying you from afar. Many times, the person wants to interact, but does not know how, so it leaves small digital clues so you can see your presence. And when someone who never enjoys anything suddenly starts to appear on your timeline, it can be a sign that you have been in her thoughts. On the other hand, the opposite can also be true when someone disappears completely from their networks. It may be because they are trying to avoid contact that, deep down, I would have to have. The departure often does not mean disinterest, but an attempt to escape feelings that have not yet been resolved. Ignoring, in this case, can be just a form of self-protection. Have you noticed how some posts seem to be made with a specific target? Indirect phrases, songs that carry hidden messages, and even subtle changes in the pattern of publications may indicate that someone wants to be noticed without having to say it directly. What just looks like any post can actually be a camouflaged message. In the end, social networks reflect much more than we like to admit. Online behavior can be a faithful mirror of someone's thoughts and emotions. So the next time you notice small digital signs, you may be worth wondering, is this person just browsing randomly or is silently trying to be present in your life? Have you ever been through someone to comment on a specific person repeatedly, even for no apparent reason? Or about common friends to mention someone in your presence without you asked? Sometimes, when a person is thinking of you, this thought ends up escaping indirectly, whether in casual conversations or even small details that seem insignificant at first glance. Often, when someone mentions someone else in random situations, this can be a reflection of what is going on in your mind. Imagine someone who unconsciously always finds a way to bring your name to the conversation, whether commenting on something you live together or even comparing other situations with you. This can be a clear sign that you take up space in her thoughts, even if she doesn't realize. Common friends can also be key pieces in this dynamic. When one person talks about you to others, it is natural for this subject to come back to you, even without direct intention. Have you ever heard phrases like so and so asked you the other day, or we were talking about you yesterday? These small mentions can be signs that this person has thought of you and somehow seeks to stay connected, even indirectly. Another interesting sign is when someone reacts noticeably when hearing his name. A change in the tone of voice, an involuntary smile, or even a look can reveal much more than words. Body language and microexpressions are like an open book for those who know how to interpret the subtle signals that deliver unnamed feelings. In the end, what matters is not only if your name is being spoken, but how and by whom. If you realize that your presence arises unexpectedly in conversations, it may be not just chance. Are you just listening to random mentions, or, in fact, can't someone stop thinking about you? The eyes are windows to the soul and often say more than any word. Have you ever had the feeling that someone looked at you differently? A look can reveal a lot about what a person feels, especially when thoughts are intensely focused on someone. If someone is constantly watching you, looking away when you realize, or holding eye contact for a second more than usual, these can be clear signs that this person is thinking of you. There is a big difference between a casual look and a look loaded with emotion. The look of someone interested is attentive, accompanies their movements, and often seems to seek you in the environment. Have you noticed when you feel that you are being observed and, when you look, find someone staring at you? This can be a reflection of unconscious attention that this person was already dedicating to you before you even noticed. Deviation of look is also an important detail. If anyone avoids facing you directly, it may be because you feel strong and are afraid of being discovered. This behavior is very common when there are repressed feelings or when the person is trying to hide what they really think. On the other hand, some people support their eyes longer than necessary, as if they wanted to establish a silent and significant connection. The intensity of the look also says a lot. Some exchanges of glances can be so powerful that they make the heart accelerate or create a climate of tension in the air. When two people have a strong connection, the eyes tend to meet naturally, as if they were pulled by each other. Have you tried being in a place full of people, but your eyes always end up returning to the same person? This can be a sign that this connection is happening on both sides. Observing the language of the look is one of the most subtle and effective ways to realize when someone is thinking of you. After all, the eyes don't know how to lie. If you pay attention, you can find out a lot about what a person feels just by the way they look at you or the effort they make not look. How many times have you had that inexplicable feeling that someone was thinking about you? With no apparent reason, a name comes up in your mind, a different feeling takes over you, or even a strong feeling appears out of nowhere. Intuition is like an invisible radar that captures signals even before our rational mind realizes. Many times, when you feel that someone is sending you thoughts, it may be because this person really is. The human brain is an amazing machine, capable of capturing subtle patterns and energies around us without consciously realizing it. Have you ever been thinking about someone out of nowhere, and shortly thereafter, that person gets in touch? Or feel a chill, a cold in the belly, and then find out that someone mentioned their name? These signs may be more than coincidences, they can be answers to their intuition by capturing what is beyond the obvious. Stoic philosophy teaches that we must learn to trust the perception of the present more than in the illusions of the mind. This means that often what we feel without explanation can be a legitimate sign of something real happening. If you feel a strong emotional presence, insistent thinking about someone, this connection may be more active than you think. The challenge is to learn to differentiate the true intuition from simple daydreams of the mind. To develop this perception, begin to pay more attention when these sensations arise. Is there any pattern? Any specific emotion that accompanies these thoughts? Over time, you will realize that your intuition not only points out real situations, but it can also be a powerful tool to better understand your own connections to the people around you. In the end, intuition rarely deceives us. We often ignore what we feel. When someone thinks of you, there is chances that your own body and mind have already captured this sign long before you consciously perceive. So the next time you feel that inexplicable connection, maybe it's time to ask, is it really just a loose thought or someone, somewhere, connecting to you without saying a word? When we begin to pay attention to the subtle signs around us, we realize that communication between people goes far beyond words. Thoughts, emotions, and even silence carry powerful messages that can indicate deeper connections than we think. If you already felt that someone was sending you signals without saying a word, maybe it's time to trust your intuition more. After all, how many times has the destination showed you that certain coincidences were more than simple chances? How many looks have revealed truths that the mouth never said? The universe has its own ways to guide us, and learning to interpret these signs can help us better understand our relationships and feelings. Now that you know these indications, stop and reflect. Is anyone, right now, thinking about you? If these situations have happened to you, share your experience in the comments. Let's unravel the mysteries of these invisible connections together. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to continue receiving insights like this. After all, maybe the next sign you need is closer than you think.